Once your system is hooked up, it will need to be filled with a water glycol solution, removing all of the air from the system. To do that, you'll need to acquire a few items: a tub to fill the system from, 2 clamps to hold the hoses on the tub, 3 washing machine hoses with female connections on each end, and a half-horsepower transfer pump. You cannot use a sump pump or a utility pump as they do not have enough pressure to pump the system to its required operating pressure. Next, we need to determine how much solution the system will hold. In a typical system, every 100 feet of half-inch tubing will contain approximately 1 gallon of fluid. For example, if your system has 1,200 feet of tubing, you'll need approximately 12 gallons in the tubing. You also need to account for the additional fluid to fill the boiler, panel, and any header pipe for your system. This is generally 4 to 5 gallons. We will be using a mixture of polypropylene glycol and distilled water to fill the system. You will need to mix the glycol and water at a 50-50 ratio. The system will be filled using the upper and lower fill flanges. We are going to pump the glycol solution from our tub through the system and back to our tub, removing all of the air from the system at the same time. Before beginning, we will make sure the screw on the air limiter is in the closed position while filling. This will seal the system during the filling process. It will be reopened a half to quarter turn after the system is filled and purged of air. Make sure that all loops on the manifold are in the open position. To begin, take one of the washing machine hoses and put one end into the mixing tub and anchor it so it will stay down in the fluid. Attach the other end of the hose to the intake of the transfer pump. Attach one end of the second hose to the discharge side of the pump and the other end to the lower fill flange. All hose bibs should be in the open position while filling. The ball valve on the lower fill flange should be closed, forcing flow only in one direction. This allows the transfer pump to fill the system. The third and final hose should be attached to the upper fill flange hose bib. The ball valve on the upper flange needs to be open while filling to allow fluid to fill the primary circulator. The other end of the final hose should be anchored to the tub so it will stay submerged while filling. During the filling of the system, the handle on the purge tee should be closed. This will force the fluid through both the primary and secondary circuits. You will need to prime the transfer pump by removing the fill plug and filling it with solution until the fluid is level with the top of the hole and replace the plug. When you start to fill the system, the pump will force the fluid from the fill tub to the fill valve, through the emitters, back to the panel return, through the boiler, and back through the panel to the upper fill valve, where it will return to the fill tub. When air first comes out of the system and into the tub, it may be milky. This is suspended air. It will turn clear when there is no more air in the system. The fluid needs to be circulated until the discharge water runs clear. Now the system is full of fluid. Next, we will need to purge the air from each individual loop. Keep the pump running throughout the entire process. We will open and close each loop one at a time, making sure that all of the air has been eliminated from each individual loop before proceeding to the next loop. We can now start purging each loop individually. We will start by closing all loops except for the first one. Make sure to close the loop on both the hot water and return manifolds. With the first loop being open, the pump will continue pushing the solution through the system and loop until the flow is clear with no bubbles returning to the tub. We will now close loop 1 on both the hot water and return manifolds. You will need to quickly open the second loop to prevent excess pressure from building up in the fill pump. You will repeat this process for each loop until the flow from the last loop returns to the tub clear with no bubbles. Once each loop has been purged, open all loops on the manifold. Make sure all loops are fully open and the fluid is running clear with no bubbles in the fill tub. Now we need to bring the system up to operating pressure. The only time we want the pump to run without flow is when we are trying to bring the system up to pressure. The pressure relief valve may discharge if the pressure is over 30 pounds. First, shut off the ball valve on the upper fill flange. This will stop the discharge of fluid through the hose returning to the fill tub. Let the pump continue to pump as you watch the pressure gauge. The pressure will rise quickly. When the pressure reaches 18 to 20 pounds per square inch with the pump still running, Open the valve for the circulator pump and shut off the fill valve on the lower fill flange. This should seal the system and leave it at pressure and free of air. Quickly unplug the transfer pump. You can now turn the purge T handle to the open position. The final step is to open the screw on the top of the air eliminator. Open the screw a quarter to half turn. This will allow any accumulation of microbubbles that form naturally to escape. Your system is now filled and ready for use.